Michael Jordan finally reaching his limit with Isiah Thomas is not something that came out of nowhere. This was not one comment, one interview, or one bad day. This was years and years of tension building up again. And when Isiah once again pushed the idea that LeBron James is greater than Jordan, while also taking a shot at the way Jordan's name is treated in basketball, it felt like he crossed a line that had been sitting there for a very long time. That is why this story matters. It is not only about LeBron and Jordan. It is not only about who is the greatest. It is about respect. It is about history. It is about a rivalry that never really died. Jordan and Isiah have never had a smooth relationship, and every time people think the fire is gone, something happens that brings it right back. So when this new moment started making noise, a lot of fans were not even shocked. They were more like, here we go again, because these two names have been tied to drama, anger, and unfinished business for decades. The reason this hit so hard is because Isiah did not just say LeBron was great. He did not just say LeBron had a strong case. He went much further than that. He questioned why so many players still speak about Jordan like he is untouchable, even while LeBron has broken records and built one of the longest great careers the game has ever seen. Then he added that line about players praising the man who gave them shoes. That was the part that changed the whole mood. Because once you say that, you are no longer only talking about points, rings, or talent. Now you were talking about brand power. Now you were saying Jordan's place at the top is not only because of what he did on the court, but also because of the giant business machine around him. That is a very direct shot. And when it comes from Isiah Thomas, a man who already has deep history with Jordan, people are going to hear more than just a sports take. They are going to hear old pain, old anger, and maybe even old jealousy. What makes this even more serious is that Isiah has not just started saying these things. This has been building for years. He has been one of the loudest voices pushing back against the classic Jordan story for a long time. First, he talked about LeBron being the better athlete. Then he said LeBron was the better all-around basketball player. Then he moved into longevity, saying LeBron's long run at the top means more. And now he is touching the culture side of it, the branding side, the way shoe deals and business power shape how fans see greatness. So this was not random. This was not some quick TV take thrown out there to get attention. This was part of a bigger pattern. Isiah has been slowly building this case, piece by piece, and every time he does it, Jordan's name is right in the middle of it. That is why people believe Jordan would finally feel like enough is enough, because after years of hearing these shots, there comes a point where silence starts to feel like acceptance, and Jordan has never been the kind of man who likes to let disrespect sit for too long. And let us be honest, Jordan and Isiah were never going to have a calm and friendly relationship anyway. Their story is too deep for that. This is not some fresh media feud. This is not two retired stars trying to stay relevant. This goes back to the real battles, the hard playoff losses, the pain, the pride, and the way both men saw the game. Isiah came from the Bad Boys Pistons, a team that made life miserable for Jordan. They hit him, they pushed him, they tested him, and they stopped him over and over again before he finally broke through. Jordan never forgot that. He never forgot the Jordan rules. He never forgot how Detroit played him. He never forgot the feel.
Jordan was the new star. He had Nike behind him, he had the cameras on him, he had the league talking about him like he was the future almost right away. That kind of rise can bother people, especially players who already fought to earn their place. So even before the famous playoff wars, there was already something there. Once that feeling gets into two proud men, it usually does not go away. Then the playoff battles made it personal in a whole new way. Jordan was already putting up huge numbers. He was already showing the world he was special. But the Pistons kept beating him when it mattered most. They were tougher, they were more ready. They had the system, the bodies, and the mindset to drag him into ugly basketball and beat him there. For Jordan, that had to feel like a wall standing between him and his destiny. For Isiah, that was proof that being great on your own was not enough. Detroit was not interested in giving Jordan any pretty path to greatness. They wanted him to earn every inch of it. And when you lose to the same team again and again in the biggest moments, anger builds. Respect may still be there, but it is buried under frustration. Jordan wanted to break them. The Pistons wanted to keep him in his place. That is how true sports hate is made. It is not fake, it is not for cameras, it comes from repeated pain. That is why all these years later, even one fresh comment can reopen wounds that never fully healed. Of course, the moment that many people still point to is that famous walk-off in 1991. The Bulls finally beat Detroit. Jordan had finally climbed over the team that had blocked him, and instead of shaking hands and standing there like men who had just lost, the Pistons walked off before the game was even fully over. No handshake, no respect shown in that moment. For Jordan, that was never going to be forgotten. It fit everything he already felt about them. It confirmed his belief that they were not just hard competitors, but people who would not show class when the tables turned. And because Isiah was the face of that Pistons team, that moment stuck to him harder than almost anything else in this rivalry. Years later, fans still bring it up because it came to stand for something bigger. It was no longer just about one playoff series. It became a symbol of the bitterness between Jordan and Isiah. So when Isiah says things today that sound like direct shots, Jordan is not hearing them with fresh ears. He is hearing them through all of that old history. Then came the Dream Team issue, and that only made everything worse. When the greatest team in basketball history was being formed, Isiah Thomas was left off. That shocked a lot of people, because talent-wise, he clearly had the name and the resume to be in that group. He had been a star for years. He had won titles. He had led one of the toughest teams ever. And yet, when that roster came together, his name was not there. Ever since then, many people have believed Jordan had a major role in keeping him off that team. Jordan denied directly making the final call, but he also made it clear that he did not want to play with Isiah. That alone tells you how deep the issue went. Even if he did not hold the pen and write the final roster, his feelings mattered. And for Isiah, being left off that team had to hurt in a way that never really left him. Because now, the rivalry was no longer just about the court. It had followed them into legacy, into history, into one of the biggest honors in basketball. That kind of pain stays with a person. That is why every new round of the Jordan-LeBron debate gets more serious when Isiah enters the room. It is not just another Hall of Famer giving his opinion. It is a man with deep scars from one of the most famous rivalries in basketball history. So when Isiah says LeBron is better, some people hear basketball analysis. Others hear a man still pushing back against Jordan's place in the game. And when he brings in the idea that Jordan's fame was helped by shoes, money, and brand power, it sounds even less neutral. It sounds like he is saying Jordan's image was built by forces bigger than pure basketball. Now, is that fully fair? Of course, Jordan had one of the biggest brands in sports. Of course, the shoes matter. Of course, the logo matters. But none of that happens without what he did on the floor. 6 titles, finals wins, scoring, defense, killer moments, global fear. Those things came first. The brand grew because the player was that great. So when Isiah makes it sound like the brand helped create the greatness story, Jordan supporters see that as crossing the line. And that may be exactly why people believe Jordan finally responded with anger. Because if there is one thing Jordan always protected, it is the truth of what he did on the court.
He can deal with people loving another player. He can even deal with debates. That comes with being Michael Jordan. But when it starts sounding like his place in history was built more by shoe deals than basketball dominance, that hits differently. That sounds like an attack on the heart of his legacy. Jordan's whole image has always been built on competition, work, control, and proving himself over and over again. He wanted to beat people so badly that it scared them. He wanted to win so badly that it shaped his entire career. So if somebody suggests that his greatness story is being held up by marketing more than merit, that is not going to sit well with him at all. To a man like Jordan, that is not normal debate. That is disrespect. It also matters who the message came from. If this was just any former player, maybe it would not hit the same way. But this is Isiah Thomas. This is the same Isiah Thomas Jordan has had tension with for more than 30 years. This is a man Jordan has never truly made peace with. Jordan is known for keeping things personal. Once he feels wronged, he does not let it go easily. We have seen that in many parts of his life. He remembers names, he remembers comments, he remembers slights. That is part of what made him who he was as a player. He used anger like fuel. He used disrespect like energy. So when Isiah once again stepped into a public space and pushed a message that sounds like a cut at Jordan's legacy, it was always going to feel heavier than normal. It was never just going to be another talk show clip. It was going to sound like an old enemy taking another swing after years of tension. And for Jordan, that kind of thing never feels small. The truth is, the Jordan and Isiah rivalry was never fully solved because neither side ever truly moved on. Time passed, yes. Both men got older, yes. They stopped playing, yes. But the feelings did not disappear. The Last Dance brought that out again in a huge way. Jordan spoke openly about how he viewed the Pistons' walk-off, and it was clear that the old bitterness was still alive. Isiah then went on shows, asking for an apology, saying he did not realize Jordan disliked him that deeply. That alone tells you how broken the relationship still was. These were not two men laughing at old times. These were two legends still carrying old pain into the present. And after that documentary, it felt like whatever small chance there was for peace became even smaller. Isiah started leaning even harder into the LeBron side of the debate. Jordan stayed Jordan, quiet in public for the most part, but never soft. So the stage was already set for another clash. All it needed was one more comment that felt too personal. What also makes this whole thing powerful is that the LeBron debate is the perfect battleground for old emotions. LeBron is the one player whose career is big enough, long enough, and rich enough to challenge Jordan in the eyes of many fans. So when Isiah supports LeBron, he is not only praising a great player, he is also pushing against Jordan's hold on the sport's top spot. He is helping move the story. And story matters in sports almost as much as numbers. People do not just remember stats, they remember what the world kept telling them about those stats. Jordan became the symbol of winning, fear, style, and greatness. LeBron became the symbol of power, length of greatness, and all-around skill. So when Isiah steps in and says people are still praising Jordan while LeBron is breaking every record, he is trying to change the story. He is trying to make people question why Jordan still stands at the top in so many minds. That is why it feels bigger than simple praise. It feels like a direct challenge to the old order. Still, there is a reason many fans keep Jordan at number one, and it is not only because of shoes, it is because of what it felt like when he played. Jordan did not just win, he controlled the room. He made opponents feel pressure before the game even started. He took over moments in a way that became part of sports history. His peak looked almost unreal. His finals record, his scoring titles, his defense, his style, his killer edge, all of that built the legend. Yes, branding made him bigger.
He beat him many times before Jordan got over the hump. He may believe he knows things about Jordan's story that the public does not fully understand. He may feel the league pushed one version of history harder than others. He may feel some men got left behind when Jordan became the central hero of basketball. And if that is how he sees it, then every GOAT debate becomes more than a fun argument. It becomes a chance to push back at the version of history he never liked. That is why his comments so often carry extra edge. They are not cold and clean, they sound personal, because for him, they are personal. The problem is that once your argument starts sounding personal, people stop hearing pure truth and start hearing old hurt. That is exactly what happens every time Isiah talks about Jordan now. Jordan, though, has always believed respect has to be earned and protected. He built his whole career on that idea. If you got in his way, he attacked. If you disrespected him, he remembered it. If you doubted him, he came harder. That was the machine. That was the mind. So when a man he already does not trust starts making public comments that sound like they lower what he accomplished, the reaction is easy to understand. Even if Jordan says very little, the feeling behind it is clear. In his mind, this is not a harmless debate. This is a man with a long history of tension, trying again to twist the truth of what happened. And when you think about it like that, "You crossed the line" sounds exactly like the type of message Jordan would send. Short, sharp, personal, final. Jordan has never needed many words when he thinks the point is obvious.
One line is enough if the line carries the full weight of who he is. There is also something bigger here about how legends age in sports. When players retire, they do not stop competing in their minds.